She didn't know me, never met me, just walked up and asked to use my hotel room because she was tired. I said no, politely, and suddenly I was the problem. But she didn't stop there. What she did next almost got me fired. I didn't expect some stranger at a hotel lobby to flip my whole sense of logic upside down. But here we are. It was supposed to be a simple business trip. 2 days. And out back home. I packed light, booked a mid-range hotel. Nothing fancy. Just one of those clean, decent places with free coffee in the lobby and those beige curtains that never really close all the way. I flew in early, like really early, and figured I'd just check in, maybe get lucky with an early room, and then crash for a bit before my meeting. I didn't sleep much the night before. You know how it is. Alarm set every hour just in case. Anxious over missing the flight. Your mind doing laps around nothing important. So yeah, I was running on caffeine and stress when I got to the hotel. The lobby was quiet. There was just one girl ahead of me at the desk. She looked about my age, maybe a bit younger, and she was clearly not in the mood for small talk. She had this impatient energy, like someone already at the edge before the day even started. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but she wasn't exactly whispering either. Something about her room not being ready. Cleaning staff behind, maybe a booking mix-up, I don't know. She was throwing a bit of attitude. Not full-blown Karen mode, but enough to make the front desk clerk speak slower, more careful, like they were trying not to set her off. I just waited, didn't think much of it. When she finally stepped aside, the clerk looked at me, almost relieved. They pulled up my reservation and, to my surprise, smiled. "Good news," they said. "Your room's ready. We can check you in now if you'd like." And just like that, keycard in hand, I gave a polite nod, thanked them, and started walking toward the elevator. That's when I heard her voice again, sharp and a little too loud behind me. "Wait, your room's ready? Seriously?" I turned, caught a glimpse of her expression. Irritated, disbelieving. "I've been waiting here and you just walk in and get one?" I kind of shrugged, awkwardly. Yeah, I guess mine was already prepped or something. I didn't think that was a wild answer, but she blinked at me like I'd just confessed to cutting in line at Disneyland. And then she hit me with it. "Can I use your room for like half an hour?" she said. "Just to freshen up and lie down or something. I've been waiting and I'm exhausted." I froze. My first thought was, is this some kind of prank? I must have blinked 3 times before saying anything. Sorry. I'm not comfortable with that." Her expression changed fast, from hopeful to offended. "What's the big deal?" she said louder now. "We're both staying here. It's not like I'm some random person." And that was when I started to feel this weird, crawling discomfort. Because, yeah, actually, she was a random person. That was literally the only thing I did know about her. "I'm sorry," I repeated, firmer this time. "I don't know you. I'm not letting someone I just met into my hotel room. You'll have to wait like everyone else." She scoffed, rolled her eyes, muttered something I didn't quite catch, probably for the best, and turned back to the front desk. I walked toward the elevator, and the entire ride up to my floor, I kept replaying that moment in my head. Had that really just happened? I locked the door behind me once I got in. It wasn't until I sat on the edge of the bed, suitcase still zipped, that it really hit me. How the hell did she think that was okay? What if the roles were reversed? Imagine me, a guy, walking up to some random woman at a hotel lobby and asking to crash at her room for 30 minutes because I'm tired. I'd probably be escorted out by security. But the thing is, it didn't feel malicious. She wasn't flirting, wasn't scamming. She seemed genuinely frustrated, tired, and just entitled. Like, she didn't think she was doing anything weird. That, somehow, made it more unsettling. The rest of that day was normal. I prepped for my meeting, grabbed some overpriced sandwich from the lobby cafe, then came back to crash for a bit before dinner. And that's when I saw her again. She was in the hotel restaurant, at a table near the window, different outfit. Maybe she finally got her room, and she wasn't alone. Another girl was sitting across from her, laughing at something on her phone. But the moment she saw me walking past the glass, her whole demeanor shifted. She stared, like burn a hole through you stared. And then, the dirtiest look I've gotten from a stranger in years. Like I'd personally ruined her whole week. I didn't look away, though. I stared back, confused, annoyed, then just kept walking. I wasn't going to let her get under my skin. But the thing is, she already had. Not in some deep, emotional way. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't heartbroken or shaken. But the whole thing, it rattled me. Like, was I being too harsh? Too paranoid? I kept thinking back to what she said. I'm not a random person. But what else would you call someone you've never seen before, who asks to borrow your personal space in a hotel for no reason other than convenience? Still, I couldn't shake this guilty little voice in the back of my mind. Maybe she really was just having a terrible day. Maybe I could have helped. But then, where's the line? Where do you draw it between kindness and self-protection? And if the roles had been reversed, would she have let me in? Doubt it. The next morning, I came downstairs early for breakfast. I had a few hours before checkout, and I figured I'd grab something light and scroll through emails. I found a quiet corner of the lobby with some armchairs and plugged in my laptop. That's when I noticed her again. Not the girl herself, but her friend, the one I saw her dining with the night before. She was standing by the front desk, checking something on her phone, waiting. Didn't think much of it until she walked straight up to me. "Hey," she said, casual tone, but eyes sharp. I looked up from my screen. Ooh. "You're the guy from yesterday, right?" she asked. "The one with the early check-in?" I blinked. Yeah, I guess." She gave his half-smile. She told me what happened. I closed my laptop, already bracing myself. She was really upset, you know. I tilted my head. "I'm sorry about that, but I wasn't comfortable letting a stranger into my room." She raised her eyebrows. "You think she was going to rob you, or something?" "I didn't say that," I replied. "But you gotta admit, asking to use someone's hotel room when you don't know them at all? That's not exactly normal." She paused, looked me over like I was a weird specimen. "You could have just helped out a tired traveler. Not everything's some huge risk." I stood up, not angry, just done. "Look," I said, "I get that you're trying to stand up for your friend. That's cool, but I'm not here to defend basic boundaries." I didn't know her. I still don't. End of story. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more, but then just gave this little scoff, spun on her heel, and walked away. I sat back down slowly. My heart was pounding a little harder than it should have been, because now it felt like I was being watched, judged, by people who somehow thought I did something wrong by not giving a complete stranger access to my private space. After checkout, I called a rideshare to the airport and stared out the window most of the way. Something about the whole situation had stuck to me like gum on a shoe. Not because it was dramatic, not because it turned into some big hotel scandal, but because of how casual the ask was, how completely unbothered she seemed to be invading someone's boundaries, and how wrong I suddenly felt for saying no. Like, since when is saying no to a stranger a selfish act? Since when is basic caution paranoia? I wish I could tell you that was the end of it. But 2 weeks later, something happened that made this whole situation go from a weird travel memory to something a lot bigger and way more personal. About 2 weeks after the hotel incident, I finally stopped thinking about it. Or, I thought I had. Life went back to normal. Work, gym, catching up on shows, texting friends back way too late. The usual. But something about that moment in the hotel stuck around in the back of my head like a splinter. I didn't talk about it much. Maybe once or twice with a buddy on a call. Just like, "Hey, weird thing happened on my trip." And they'd laugh it off. Move on. No big deal. And then, on a random Tuesday morning, I got a DM. Not on Instagram. Not even on Facebook. LinkedIn. Yeah, that alone already made it weird. It was from someone named Kira. No profile picture. No company listed. Just a message that said, "You should be more careful about how you treat people." No greeting. No context. Just that. And I remember sitting there, halfway through my morning coffee, rereading that message like, what the hell? At first, I figured it was spam. Maybe some kind of phishing thing. But when I clicked on the profile, it was completely blank, except for one detail. Location. The same city where I had stayed during the work trip. I didn't reply, just blocked and moved on. But that same night, I kid you not, I got a second message. This time, on Facebook Messenger. Different account. Still no photo. This one said, "Funny how one hotel stay can show someone's true colors." I froze, because that couldn't be a coincidence. I clicked the profile. Again, nothing. But this time, it had one friend in common with me. Just one. And I had no idea who that person was either. At that point, it was starting to feel less like a random internet thing, and more like a grudge. Like someone had made a whole little mission out of trying to make me feel bad. But still, I didn't respond. I figured they'd get bored and move on if I didn't give them anything. Except they didn't. A few days later, I got tagged in a random tweet. Not by username. Just someone mentioning a selfish guy at a hotel who refused to help a tired girl because he was paranoid she'd rob him. There was no no name, but the replies? Some of them were vicious, calling me arrogant, cold, a typical man. Some even made it political, like I was proof of some larger societal problem. I sat there just staring at the screen, mouth slightly open, pulse climbing. How did this escalate? How did this one weird, awkward hotel interaction get turned into a public story? I didn't even know this girl's name. I never told anyone the hotel name. Didn't post about it. Didn't share it anywhere. But someone, somewhere, had turned it into a personal vendetta. I called a friend, Jenna. She's one of those brutally honest types, the kind that doesn't coddle, but also doesn't let you spiral. She listened to everything, the DM, the tags, the weird timing, then just said, "Okay, first off, that's unhinged." "Thank you," I said, rubbing my eyes. "But second, are you sure you didn't do something that felt worse than it was?" I paused. Like what? I don't know. Maybe she thought you were smug or dismissive. Some people twist things in their heads, especially if they're emotional. I just told her no. I said, "That's it." Jenna exhaled. "Then don't feed it. Block, report, move on." I tried. I really did. But the next week, things got worse. I got a call from HR at work. They were following up on a message they received through our company website. Anonymous, of course, saying that one of their employees had shown concerning behavior to a young woman during a business trip. My stomach dropped. I asked what exactly it said, but the HR manager was polite, almost too polite, as if trying to keep me calm. "Don't worry," they said. "We're not making assumptions. We're required to document and investigate, but this doesn't mean anything disciplinary is happening." I asked them straight up, was this about the hotel? They couldn't confirm, but I knew. I could feel in my chest that same heat from the elevator, that same frustration and confusion and low-grade fear. Someone was trying to ruin me, and they weren't doing it loudly. No, they were using little whispers, tiny paper cuts, passive-aggressive, indirect, but calculated. I barely slept that night. Not because I thought I'd lose my job, though, yeah, it was a worry, but because I couldn't understand what was driving this. Was it pride? Revenge? Did I really come off that cold? Or was this about control, about someone not getting what they wanted and needing to punish me for it? A week later, I got an answer. Not the one I wanted, but a clue. I was on Instagram late one night, just scrolling mindlessly through stories when a post caught my eye. It was a boomerang clip of some hotel room, different from the one I stayed in, but same brand. The caption said, "At least this guy was nice enough to let me crash in his room." And the username? I didn't recognize it at first, but something made me click it. Her face was there, clear as day, in one of the highlight bubbles. The girl from the lobby. Except, she wasn't alone. The girl from the restaurant was in there too. And her name was Kira. That's when it clicked. The LinkedIn DM, the Facebook message, the company email. It was all her. She was the engine behind this weird, slow burn sabotage campaign. And I still couldn't figure out why. I hadn't cursed at her. I hadn't embarrassed her. I just said no. I thought about messaging her, about clearing the air, asking her to stop. But something deep down told me it wouldn't help. She didn't want an apology. She wanted a villain, someone to point to and say, "Look what he did." Maybe because it gave her something to talk about. Or maybe because making someone else the bad guy made her feel good. I don't know, but I kept watching her stories. Not obsessively, not like a stalker, but just trying to understand. And the more I saw, the weirder it got. Little jabs about men who think they're better than everyone, or the coldness you get when someone's never had a struggle. None of it named me, but all of it felt like me. Or at least the version of me she decided I was. One night, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and I realized something. I hadn't done anything wrong, but I was still afraid. Afraid of my name being dragged somewhere online. Afraid of my face ending up in some thread, twisted into a caricature of arrogance. Afraid that no matter how innocent I'd been, someone had already rewritten the story. And in her version, I was the villain. But here's the twist. A few days after that realization, I got an email. Not from a burner account. Not from my job. From her. Real name. Real signature. A legit address in the email field. Subject line. An explanation, not an apology. I stared at it for a long time. Then I clicked it. And the message inside changed everything. The subject line alone already had me uneasy. An explanation, not an apology. Like she knew how it sounded. Like she knew the damage was done, but still wanted to talk. I opened the email. No attachments. No word formatting. Just plain text. It read, "Hey, I know this might seem random or out of nowhere, but I wanted to explain what happened. Not because I think you care, but because it's been bothering me too. I wasn't trying to sabotage you. I didn't plan some campaign or anything. But I did tell a story, my story, about what happened at the hotel. And maybe some people took it too far. Maybe I let them. I just remember feeling humiliated. Not because you said no, but because of how you said it. Like I wasn't even human. Like I was gross for asking. And yeah, I know, we didn't know each other. But I was desperate. I hadn't slept in over 24 hours. My flight got delayed twice. My booking got screwed. My phone died. My charger was in my suitcase, in a room I couldn't access. I wasn't thinking straight. I was embarrassed. And you looked put together, like you had it all under control. I hated that. I hated how calm you were while I was falling apart. So I told people. I said you were cold, selfish, dismissive, and maybe you weren't. But that's how it felt. And when my friend saw you later and said she recognized your company name from your laptop bag, I don't know. I guess I want to make you feel a little of what I felt. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not sorry either. Just thought you should know. That was it. No sign off. No sincerity. No invitation to respond. I sat there staring at my screen for what had to be 20 minutes. Just frozen. There was so much in that message. So much defensiveness. So much hurt. And the messed up part? I believed her. I really did. Not just the part about being exhausted or stranded or vulnerable, but the part about me. The way I'd said no. Because yeah, maybe I'd come off cold. Not intentionally. Not cruelly. But I was tired too. On edge. And I didn't want to deal with someone else's mess. So I shut it down. Fussed. Flat. Emotionless. And maybe that was enough for her